You want more than just the headlines? Find out what's going on and what it means with me, Dennis Prager, this morning at 11, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
It's been so long to be where I'm going in the sunshine of your love. Can I play at your prom?
Wow.
Okay.
Bruce Wolf is in the his ass.
Just gave myself a little stroke right now.
Yesterday, President Trump welcomed the president of Nigeria. And since I am the name assassinator, I'm going to give this a shot.
Okay.
Muhammadu
Sure.
Buhari. And, of course, that was one of the places that President Trump had called a blank hole country. Remember,
Sure.
It was Haiti. It was
Yeah.
Africa. And so a reporter, of course, brought that up. And listen to this response.
To visit President Trump here at the White House. Did you address his reported comments from earlier this year when he reportedly used vulgar language to describe African nations?
Well, I'm very careful with what the press says about others and myself. I'm not sure about, the validity or whether that allegation against the president was true or not. So the best thing for me is to keep quiet.
The best thing for me
That was diplomatic.
is to keep quiet. Good
Trump,
for him.
Well, Trump actually said it, but that's what the other foreign leaders have to say around him. They have to be very, very careful and diplomatic, and Macron has to love him.
Oh, Macron is the Trump whisperer. And it's Macron, by the way.
There
And
we
he
go.
is the Trump whisperer.
Well, to comment on these things and many others, let's bring in Noah Rothman, associate editor for Commentary Magazine, prolific author, and among other things, Noah, you know John Podhoretz personally, so it's wonderful talking to you this morning. Thanks for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah. So
me joining you.
Whatever. It's
We're all
symbiotic.
together.
It's wonderful. So it is funny how diplomatic world leaders have to be around what a lot of people would claim is our ugly American president.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that. I think that generally you're going to see foreign leaders respect the president of the United States, whoever it is, because they have so much to lose if they lose the affections and the generosity of the American presidency. We are the hyperpower, the superpower. There is nothing even remotely close to us in terms of generosity of charity, foreign aid, military support. We are the indispensable nation. And so even if you have a president who insults you, as he probably did, I mean, Omarosa said he did, the president doesn't really deny it, the people around him don't really deny it, it probably happened. You're going to look past it, even if that causes you a lot of headaches at home, and it certainly does. I mean, there's politics everywhere else, too. And it's not as though these comments played very well in the countries that the president allegedly disparaged.
So this morning we woke up with new news about the Mueller investigation. The special counsel Mueller recently provided President Trump's lawyers a list of questions that he wanted to be answered in an interview. And the New York Times obtained this list. I'm sure you've read through some of the questions. It's, 4 dozen or so questions. If you were President Trump, would you answer any of these?
Some of them, I probably, but not most of them. I think this is probably what President Trump likes to say is his favorite gambit, is that this is the opening bid. We are going for broke. Every single possible item that we can possibly offer is on the table, and now we start the winnowing process. If you were President Trump's attorneys, you wouldn't want him to answer any of these questions.
Right.
Even the implication is that some of these questions, which verge on, just talking about basic presidential powers and authority, suggests that we're criminalizing the process of being the president of the United States and the authority guaranteed to the president of the United States. So, of course, I'm going to let him answer these questions. But we don't know the extent to which Donald Trump wants to listen to his attorney. His lead attorney, John Dowd, resigned specifically by saying that my client will not listen to my advice, and I cannot continue to represent him if he is going to not listen to my advice. And I believe that had everything in there, anything to do with the Mueller probe, specifically the context of an interview, a face-to-face interview. So I think Donald Trump doesn't believe he has anything to hide and is very interested in being as forthright and forthcoming as he possibly can with these investigators. And is possibly being a little naive in that fact, because a lot of these questions are compelling in if you were looking at an obstruction investigation or an investigation to collusion. We still don't have the answer to that question, as much as Donald Trump's defenders say that the question has been asked and answered. It really has not. And one of the revelations that we saw last night in this report is that the Mueller probe is specifically asking whether Paul Manafort, Donald Trump's campaign manager, sought political assistance during the campaign from Moscow, and we have no reason to we have no public reporting to suggest why they're asking that question.
Well, there's a lot.
So that leaves us with some very compelling conclusions that we can draw on our own.
Yeah, the problem is there's so much speculation involved. Remember when McClatchy had that report a couple of weeks ago that Carter Page apparently was in Prague, and it was like a Friday night bombshell, and then nothing came of it after that, which leads you to believe that that was a bunch of baloney. So, you wonder about that. And then, you've got Hot Air had a story yesterday. They'd noticed that the Inquirer is starting to diss Michael Cohen, which is interesting because the Inquirer and Donald Trump are in an alliance there, the owner, and why would they start ripping on Michael Cohen unless it's that Trump is trying to distance himself from Cohen, who might flip to some extent on Trump? I know this calls for a lot of speculation, but heck, Mueller opened it up with these questions.
Yeah, and we had some reporting yesterday from ABC News' investigative unit, which said that the Trump campaign had, in fact, reimbursed Michael Cohen to the tune of, I think, a little over $250,000 for the expenses that he incurred in dealing with the Stormy Daniels issue. And that's kind of a tertiary issue for the Mueller probe. The Mueller probe's investigating a lot of different things, and that's not really one of them. But if that suggests, I mean, I'm not 100% sure because I'm not a lawyer, but I think that could be construed as a violation of campaign finance law. So that would be a crime. That's a prosecutable crime. And if you have a prosecutable crime, you can certainly leverage it. And if you can leverage that and you can get Donald Trump's personal attorney, self-described, by the way, the president has described Michael Cohen as his personal attorney as recently as last month.
Yes.
Then you can certainly use that information in the context of this investigation to get to something a little bit more related to the Mueller probe. So, yeah, they have a lot of reasons to be worried about Michael Cohen.
Okay. Yeah, the thing is, I mean, the Obama administration had federal election violations, too, but nobody made that big a deal out of it. Let's just pivot real quickly here. You had a column or essay a while back in commentary about you mentioned that Britannia ruled the waves, not just so there could be a song about it. They actually, Britain had to take care of the sea lanes, and there is a reason to get involved in international activity. But we have such an isolationist streak. It's manifested, I think, by Tucker Carlson on Fox. He, even when Assad was using chemical weapons on his own people, very much doubted that Assad did it and didn't even countenance any opposing arguments on that until I think you were on with him like the next day or so. But that's the isolationist streak we have in this country. And, now especially when you think, I wonder if Tucker Carlson even believes Netanyahu right now. So that's what we're contending with, is this isolationist streak, which is rearing its ugly head again in America.
And as you say, it's very American. It's very much in our national DNA that we sort of expect these two oceans to protect and preserve us, and leave Europe's and Asia's problems to Europe and Asia. And that's something to be celebrated. I don't think that's anything to be frustrated with. But it is something to contend with, because I believe it can be rather harmful, particularly when it comes to compelling us to erect these broad, fantastical ideas that allow us to escape into this idea that we will be preserved and that these foreign conflicts won't touch us, even though we're in the 7th year of the Syrian conflict, and it has had demonstrably deleterious effects on global security, on Europe, and on American national security, as we could not stay out of that conflict. The last administration was desperate to stay out of that conflict, and it only metastasized, grew worse, and compelled him to intervene at a time and place not of our choosing, and under strategic circumstances that were not as good as they could have been had we intervened when and where we wanted to. So I don't know whether Mr. Carlson believes what he said before, where he suggested that chemical weapons attack had never occurred. I think he's a patriotic gentleman and will be very frustrated by the fact that Russian and Iranian propaganda outlets used those comments to advance their political narratives. I don't think he wants to advance the interests of our enemies, but that is nevertheless the fact. That is what happened.
You're very diplomatic.
So
if I can, we just have a little time left, and this is Rorschach test that we're giving everybody today. Did you view Michelle Wolf's attacks on Sarah Huckabee Sanders as insults to her physical appearance? Because it seems like there's people like Maggie Haberman, and we had Selena Zito on before, who believe, and I believe, that they were insults about her physical appearance. And then there are others who are trying to innocently construe this as just being arguments against her political position. And if we can't even agree on what she said, I mean, how are we going to bring the two sides together?
Yeah, I think liberals and Democrats who are invested in sort of keeping Michelle Wolf from being attacked for her comedy performance are being very obtuse. She was obviously attacking the physical appearance of the press secretary, but guess what? I don't care. It was a roast. It was a roast format. That is what happens when you get on stage, when you are on the dais with a roaster. You're going to get roasted, and everything is on the table. This is art. And I refuse to judge art by the standards by which I would judge a politician. I don't think that's healthy. I don't think that's honest. And I think everybody engaging in the politics here is being a little disingenuous.
All right, but here's the thing.
You know what? I never looked at it that way.
Oh, but here, isn't there disparate treatment, though? Because it's a roast of Republicans all the time, with the exception of the Don Imus routine with the Clintons a number of years ago. It basically, boils down to when during the Obama years, they'd make jokes, as Kyle Smith said in National Review, about Fox News. When it's Trump who's not going to buy into this, he won't allow this. But George Bush sat and took it. So it's basically like a Colbert or Jimmy Kimmel show right there, and you never get the other side being roasted like that and their physical appearance being disparaged.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There is a double standard because this is a room full of liberals, and it's bad for the Washington press corps to be engaged in this, and the commodification of journalism and the celebrity that became of this event during the Obama years. It's corrupting, and it's dishonest, and I think it should be abandoned. I've said that for years now. My position has not changed. But I find the attacks on Michelle Wolf to be, this is not the problem here. The performer is not the problem. The audience is the problem.
Exactly.
The event is the problem.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Noah.
Noah Rothman, Associate Editor for Commentary Magazine. Glad to have you back on.
My problem. My pleasure. Thank you.
That was your problem. It's a Freudian slip.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's that kind of day.
It's you liberals, you neocons.
My problems and my pleasure. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.